What's going on, everybody? C4, welcome back to the channel, and it's that point in the offseason. It is time for our way too early 2023 NFL mock draft. Now, if you're already like the first thing people get upset about is the draft order, these are just Vegas odds. Like the inverse of what the Super Bowl odds are. This is what Las Vegas thinks of your team. That is what we're going to go off of. I tried to just look at a combination of the depth chart, holes that are still there for teams. Obviously, there's going to be impending free agents that might create needs that I might not assess and address right now. It's still way too early. I mean, we don't even know what the draft order is going to, the prospect pool is really going to look like. There's still big time question marks. I think when you really look at the quarterback spot, it's after Bryce Young. I think it's going to be anyone's game. Some of these, we're going to go way off the board with some of these players as well. Guys that I'm higher on right now. But obviously, a lot can change. Hell, even before the college football season, for how I rank these players. But I will have my positional rankings, like an early positional rankings out for every single position on the Patreon sooner than later. I started working on it last weekend. I got through pretty much the entirety of the offense from quarterback to right tackle. And then I'll be posting that as soon as I'm finished it. But without further ado, let's get into our way too early mock draft. There's going to be no trades. There's teams. You got to look at Philadelphia with 2 first-round picks. If they're not happy with Jalen Hurts, they'll probably be aggressive in trying to come up and get a quarterback. You have the Dolphins. Dolphins have 2 first-round picks. If Tua ain't the answer with all the weapons they got there, they could be aggressively trying to create up and get a quarterback. I think Houston would want a quarterback. I think Atlanta could want a quarterback. Potentially, they did get Desmond Ridder. I think the Lions are going to be after a quarterback. The Giants could be after a quarterback. Let's just have some fun. It's just a fun little exercise. You know what I'm saying? So without further ado, with the first overall pick, we have the Houston Texans here, who I personally hope they fall in love with Davis Mills. Davis Mills shows enough because I do not see a way that Philadelphia, if Jalen Hurts is not the answer, can trade up. Like, why would any of the teams that are in prime position to take a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud, for example, why they would trade out? They need the quarterback. They don't need multiple first-round picks. You're not going anywhere without a franchise quarterback. And I think Bryce Young, he's college Russell Wilson. Like what peak Russell Wilson was for Seattle, that is what Bryce Young reminds me at Alabama. I think he's as close to that Trevor Lawrence prospect that I've seen. He's such an intelligent football player. A good athlete, might not be like a true dual threat, but I think he's like Russell Wilson in that sense. Where Russell Wilson, when he knows he needs to scramble, he can scramble very efficiently. I think you get that with Bryce Young. I think the arm talent, the accuracy is all there. A couple hiccups in his decision making, but that's just kind of what, the price of doing business with a young quarterback like Bryce Young that's been really had to be the guy for Alabama since he was very, very young, kind of learning on the fly. But I think he is truly he's not the best player. Will Anderson is far away the best player in the draft, but if you need a quarterback, Bryce Young is your guy in 2020. I can say that for certain. I don't think, even right now, there's still a lot of football to play. Bryce Young could, where's the Clemson guys? He's not even making it right now. DJU. Remember DJU was consistently, there's a chance, but I'd be absolutely shocked if Bryce Young, from right now till this time next year, isn't regarded as the best quarterback in this draft class. Pick 2, we have Atlanta. They're going to stay with Des Ridder. And they're going to go Will Anderson, who is an alien, the best defensive prospect in a very long time. That gets said and that gets brought up. This is the best X position player that you can. I cannot remember an edge rusher that has been like this. Like, he should be far and away I think he's far and away the number 1 most talented player in this draft class. It's just quarterback's positional value kind of deal. This would be an absolute dream for Atlanta. Hopefully Desmond Ridder works out for you. Or maybe you get the second resurgence of Marcus Mariota. But Will Anderson Jr. is, like, I put it this way, there's been some great edge rushers. Like, you might have, Bryce, you got Myles Garrett. You had, Chase Young coming out. You had the Bosa. I think I'm taking Will Anderson over all of them. Call me he's an alien. I don't know. He's like Kyle Pitts at the tight end position, but as a defensive end, which is a premier spot. You put it this way. You think there's a better edge rusher than Will Anderson coming out of college? Let me know when the last one is. I think Myles Garrett's the only guy I can kind of think of. And even then, I think I'd gamble on the traits and upside of Will Anderson Jr. It's insane. Maybe it's going to be the hype he won't be able to live up to. He's that damn good. Pick 3 with the Detroit Lions. I'm going to have him go CJ Stroud here. I'm not 100% sold on my quarterback rankings. CJ Stroud would look like a franchise, look like a top 5 pick. And then some weeks he just, he's learning on the fly, much like Bryce Young. I think he gets it rectified. He's probably, like I'm leaning right now, it's still very early. He'll be quarterback 2, and obviously Detroit, they're playing themselves into another spot here. Jared Goff's not going to be the answer. They didn't go quarterback last year or this year, because it wasn't a great quarterback class. I think they, unfortunately, because they pick after Houston, will have to be, the best of the rest at that quarterback spot. And right now, I give the slight edge to CJ Stroud, even though it's very fluid for the quarterback rankings. Number 4, we have the Jets on the clock, and this is a tough one. I think they had such a good draft this year. It's tough to project where their holes are going to be. I think if they wanted to, if they're going BPA, they could just be straight and looking at Jackson Smith-NJIGBA. But you look at the wide receivers, they got a lot of money invested in Corey Davis. You got Elijah Moore and Braxton Berrios in the slot. They got Garrett Wilson. They picked the pick 10. Could be tough, unless there's an out and Corey Davis doesn't perform, you could go Njigba. But other than that, you're just going BPA at a premier position. And I would go Brian Bresee right now, D lineman, D tackle out of Clemson. I think you get a little bit of versatility there. They have some bodies on the interior. Obviously, Quinton Williams is very good. Franklin Myers. I feel like there's someone else that might be missing. But again, at this spot, the Jets are picking it for you probably, again, with a defensive-minded head coach, just kind of going best player available on the defensive side of the ball. Could be Ojulari there, but I think they're good at edge with the money they invested in Lawson, and they got Jermaine Johnson. So, Jalen Carter, potentially, he's very good. I think I'll just go Bresee right now. Pick 5, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I'm going to have them get Jackson Smith-NJIGBA, get Trevor Lawrence a weapon. They did not get him a weapon this year, outside of destroying the wide receiver market with Christian Kirk. This is, out of all the picks, I think this is one of the biggest home runs, the biggest need. I still don't know who the wide receiver one is in Jacksonville. Who's going to be the guy that helps Trevor Lawrence elevate himself? I don't know if he's on the roster right now. Pick 6, we have the New York Giants on the clock, and this is going to go a little bit crazy. I have them getting Will Levis. I think I'm not comparing him to the player. I'm comparing it to the situation. Will Levis is kind of like Josh Allen at Wyoming as it stands right now. I think you're going for a guy he might not put up gaudy numbers. He might not win the Heisman. He might not get 40-some touchdowns in Kentucky. But I think when you look at him in a vacuum, you see the arm. I think he has probably the best arm talent in the draft next year. I just remember he was breaking records with velocity and all that kind of throws, all those measurements. He was going viral a little bit last offseason. I think it was while he was at Penn State because he transferred from Penn State to Kentucky. But I think Levis is going to be one of those guys that as you break it down, as you view the upside, maybe not so much the stats that he's put up, I'd be surprised if he's not going to be in that first round conversation. And I think, again, similar to Josh Allen in regards that he might not have ridiculous college numbers, but when you look at the arm talent's probably going to push him in the first round. But again, incredibly fluid when you talk about the quarterbacks this year's draft class. Levis could end up being a 3rd or 4th round pick. Who's that dude at Washington that the Colts drafted? Oh, Jacob Eason. Jacob Eason had it felt like he had kind of first round arm talent, and it could age bad having Will Levis going in the first round. But as it stands right now, sure, why not, man? For the exercise of the way too early mock draft, let's put it there. Hey, the Giants are picking top 10 again. They're most likely moving on from the quarterback, Danny Dimes. 7, we have the Chicago Bears. And much like the Jags, they did not really do a whole lot to help out Justin Fields. So I'm going to have them get Kayshon Boutte. I think he's got to be the second best. I think the wide receiver class is not nearly as deep at the top this year. Really, after Smith-NJIGBA and Boutte, I think there's a considerable gap, and I think these rankings kind of reflect that a little bit. But I think Boutte, absolute baller, crushed it for LSU. Hopefully, he can get back out there healthy. I don't really know 100% what their quarterback situation is going to finish out as, but very talented. Should be one of the best wide receivers in the SEC. Pick 8, we have the Carolina Panthers, and I have them sticking with whatever they have at quarterback. Between Matt Corral, they give him a chance. Sam Darnold, they give him a chance. Get a weapon there, and they're going to get Baby Gronk, Michael Mayer, the tight end out of Notre Dame. Incredibly well-rounded player. I think as good, as well-rounded and complete of a tight end prospect for a minute. He's not Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is more that tweener wide receiver hybrid in terms of just a guy that can catch, can block, can do kind of everything. Very high floor, pretty high ceiling. I think you're looking at Baby Gronk here out of Notre Dame to get a weapon for whoever the quarterback emerges there in Carolina. Plus, Panthers, if I had to say right now, looks like, with being Baker Mayfield and all that stuff, maybe they would go the trade for a veteran route than drafting a quarterback in this year's draft class, especially if they're not going to be in contention for Bryce Young. Pick 9, we have the Seattle Seahawks on the clock. Going off the board, getting my boy from Florida, Anthony Richardson. Incredibly boomer bust. He needs to stay healthy, but if he stays healthy, I'll tell you right now, I've already put on a Heisman bet. There is Gator bias there, but it didn't take much to look at Anthony Richardson when he played last year, healthy for Florida. My God, this guy could be unstoppable. 6'3", 6'4", 245 pounds, probably going to run a 4.5, cannon of an arm. The traits are all there. He's like, I'm not going to say he's Lamar Jackson. He's not as athletic as Lamar Jackson, but he's pretty damn close, and he's twice the size. Durability, though, that's the only thing that's kind of going with him. A lot of unnecessary hits for Florida last year, but I think out of all the quarterbacks, I think in that bubble, I think Bryce Young is quarterback one, but then you go to the Stroud, Levis, Richardson, some other quarterbacks. I think I have one more, maybe two more going in this round. It's fluid. It's all these guys are going to be able to earn that QB2 title this upcoming season, but Anthony Richardson certainly is in that conversation. And if you're at least viewing electrifying playmaker at the quarterback spot, Anthony Richardson is that guy. You maybe could compare him a little bit to, stylistically anyways, what he could bring to an offense. You might look at Malik Willis, and Malik Willis obviously tumbled into the third round, but I think Anthony Richardson, a little bit more accurate, a little bit higher ceiling, a little bit more NFL readiness, if you will. But I would say, given his skill set, what we've seen so far, it's very limited in Florida. I'd be a little bit potentially worried about projecting him in the first round, seeing how far of a fall Malik Willis has. Because in terms of development, Richardson would just be a one-year starter. Maybe teams could hold it against him, but I'm going to be wishful and act like he's going to help Florida next year, and he's going to be dominant in the SEC and solidify himself as going out as a redshirt sophomore and declaring early in the draft. Number 10, we have the Commanders. And I'm going to have them go secondary and get Kelee Ringo, the corner out of Georgia. I think I think Eli Ricks just got arrested. Doesn't seem like it was anything bad, just speeding with weed in the car, which is, I guess, outside of Alabama, it's okay. But in Alabama, it's the death sentence, pretty much. God damn it. Backwards ass state. But Kelee Ringo is probably still going to be the top corner available. They could go quarterback here, but again, they got Sam Howell, got Carson Wentz. Given the board, still a lot of question marks. Why not just go at a position that they need to get better? And I think getting an outside corner, which with Kelee Ringo, you get outside. He's length, his speed. He's going to be a corner one, potentially. I think that's too much upside for the Commanders to pass instead of looking at a quarterback or something. Number 11, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I have the Steelers there getting a little bit younger on the defensive line and bringing in Jalen Carter, who was probably the second best D lineman, at least in terms of D tackle. Maybe in the SEC. Depending on how you view Travon Walker, he's kind of a hybrid D&D tackle. But after Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter was right there. Incredibly dominant last season. And D tackle, maybe not the strongest, position that you value as a fringe top 10 pick. Seems like D tackles don't necessarily go. But that's Jordan Davis range. And I think Jalen Carter is going to go in that Jordan Davis range. Maybe not as freaky of an athlete, but I think consistency, I think technically he's better than Jordan Davis is. And you know what? Wouldn't be surprised once you see all these Georgia guys again go to the combine. Just show that they're all aliens and freak athletes. Wouldn't be shocked. With Jalen Carter there to the Steelers, they get a big-time D lineman. 12. We have the Eagles. Again, we just got to assume there's no trades here. So if I'm Philadelphia, I'm sitting here at 12. You got two defensive ends here. I think I'll go Myles Murphy just because Ojulari might be more suited for that Sam role that we paid for Hassan Riddick. So Philly would be more so looking for a defensive lineman that can take over for Derek Barnett and Brandon Graham. And for that, it is Myles Murphy, the former 5-star super recruit for Clemson. Should be a guy that's one of the best pass rushers in college football next year. Double-digit sack type player. Very good athlete. Very safe. Very high floor as well with a high ceiling. 13 for the Minnesota Vikings. We're going to have them. They didn't really, spend premier picks here on the secondary. They did go Andrew Booth in the second round. Still think you could double dip. Obviously, right now there's red flags, but Eli Ricks looks like a pretty damn good perimeter corner at the next level. I think that for right now, assuming everything goes well and he does suit up for Alabama, he most likely will be corner 2 in this draft, and another year that Minnesota should probably still make a heavy investment in rebuilding that secondary. 14, we have the Vegas Raiders. Slight reach, which is what the Raiders are known for, unfortunately. I'm going to have them get Joey Porter Jr. A little bit of a run on corners here. Don't have a for sure first-round grade right now on Joey Porter Jr. He is the son of, the pass rusher, so he has that athletic background, has that, usually players whose dads are really good and they're pretty good in college tend to be pretty good pros. I think he's going to be like many Penn State players. Penn State is kind of like a mini Georgia in regards, like anytime there's like a fringe first, second round Penn State player, they're a freaky athlete. So I think you can see Joey Porter absolutely dominate the combine. And again, still haven't, like, this is probably out of all my first round picks so far, outside of the quarterbacks, which is a complete question mark right now. Porter's probably the only guy I haven't, done a whole lot of research on him yet. Not super familiar, kind of going with the consensus right now, but I do think the Raiders should look at the secondary spot and getting younger and finding more long-term options. 15, we have the New England Patriots, and I'm going to have the Patriots just kind of get a value pick here and get B.J. Ojolari, the pass rusher from LSU. Again, I think he's going to be kind of a scheme versatile, which is great for that Bill Belichick front, and I think they're a defense that needs to find more ways to get after the pass rusher. Matt Judon, good player, productive player, getting out there in age a little bit, maybe get a little bit younger at that edge spot. 16, we have Philadelphia back on the clock, and I'm going to have them get Malachi Moore. I think you can classify him as a defensive back, but he's most likely going to be a safety. Will Philly invest in the safety spot? Probably not. This is a spot where they'll probably just grab a tackle or another D lineman, because that's what Howie Roseman does. But we desperately need help in that secondary right now. Honey Badger has signed with the Saints as of like 2-3 hours ago, which is a bummer. We still need corner help, but the corner market's kind of drying up at this point. You're dealing with like Hodges, Tomlinson, Johnson. They're kind of, nickel guys, slot guys. Mullins a slot guy. In terms of outside corners, it's not the best. So we go safety, and it's Malachi Moore. You could also see them go Brandon Joseph, the transfer to Notre Dame. But I think Malachi Moore, it seems like Howie Roseman's starting to value Alabama players. If you're on a good program, we're going to prioritize that. And Malachi Moore kind of fits the trend of the Eagles draft picks as of late. 17, we have the Miami Dolphins. And here we are going to go a little bit off the beaten path. Is he even on here? Yes, he is. Jack Roy. He's a PFF darling right now. I think he had the second highest interior pass rush rate last year. And I think at this point for the Dolphins, assuming, that they're not going to be trying to trade up for a quarterback, I think getting younger on that 3-4 could be, that front three, could be what they do. And if they want the best pass rusher, that's for sure can plug and play right now in a 3-4. I think they're going to look at Roy out of LSU. We'll be interested to see if he can continue a little bit of a breakout year last year, if he can continue that trajectory for LSU. So a little bit of a pick, but I know he's a PFF darling. Usually they're pretty good when they have SEC pass rushers with insanely good, metrics. So we'll kind of gamble on the metrics here. 18, we have the Tennessee Titans. A little bit of a drop-off, but we're going to talk about future, looks like USC wide receiver Jordan Addison. He was the best wide receiver statistically. Got the Biletnikoff Award last year for Pitt as the go-to target for Kenny Pickett. He's got to go to USC, as they, pretty much just buy up all the players right now, which is the way of college football, which is good and bad. I think it's I don't know my true thoughts. I think I can see the positive and the negative, and I agree that both exist. I think the positives, obviously, these kids need to get paid. If coaches can go left, right, and center, why can't these kids? 100%. Jordan Addison should go to the highest buyer. Also, you're getting to the era that these teams are going to be feeder programs for the bigger schools. Anytime there's a breakout small school guy, he's got to go somewhere else. I think that's the integrity of the game. Sound like an old man. I think both are true. And it's just, it is what it is in today's society. But ultimately for Tennessee, they did get Treylon Burks. Think they can double dip, grab another wide receiver for hopefully, especially if you're a Titan fan, Malik Willis into 2023. We have the Arizona Cardinals at pick 19, and I'm going to have them go again. I don't know where he's classified on this one. A little off the board. I'm going to go Jalen Redmond out of Oklahoma. Very productive pass rusher. I think he's getting incredibly slept on right now. I think Arizona, another team on that 3-4, kind of like Miami. Let's see if we can get another pass rusher. See if we can get a guy that can get after the quarterback. Foskey's kind of a tweener. They could go Byron Young. He's like 290. I think Redmond's going to gain a lot of momentum this year for Oklahoma. It might be a down year for Oklahoma, but I think he's going to be one of the better pass rushers interior, especially for transitioning to a 3-4 on the next level in the Big 12. Number 20, we have the Indianapolis Colts. And I'm going to have them grab a quarterback, Tanner McKee out of Stanford. They're going to go back to the Stanford well. Again, it's fluid quarterback rankings. Who knows who's going where? I think right now, Tanner McKee pressed me a lot of games that I watched in Stanford. I think I watched 3 or 4 Stanford games where I was like, damn, like he's like 6'6", 230, prototypical build. Not Andrew Luck, but I think the Colts might be like, well, we hit on the last Stanford quarterback till we just failed to build the team around him and he got hurt and retired. I think Tanner McKee should be one of these quarterbacks that has a chance to establish himself as a first-round player. And if you're the Colts, clearly you got Matt Ryan on borrowed time. If you're picking here at 20, I'm going to assume that maybe the Matt Ryan experiment didn't work out. Yet again, a failed attempt at finding your quarterback. So now it's probably time that you have a first-round pick to draft a guy you think you can develop. 21, we have the Baltimore Ravens, and I'm going to have the Ravens go linebacker. This is always the toughest one. When you mock positions that, it's tough to see a lot of first rounders go for that position. Linebacker in particular, I have a couple linebackers. There's no way. 1, 2. I have 3 linebackers going in the first round of this mock. It's probably not going to happen. But if it does, it's a really strong linebacker class, I think, at the top end. And we're going with P.N. Sewell's brother, Noah Sewell, 260. Very good athlete. I think he's well-rounded coverage. He can blitz. He can go sideline to sideline. He's going to be one of those guys I hope test. Because he's like, you think of like, he's kind of like Leo Chenal, it feels like, where it's like throwback size of a linebacker, not modern day, like 220, kind of like a safety linebacker hybrid. A little bit more old school. I think the Baltimore Ravens, things might not be working out with Patrick Queen going with that smaller style linebacker. Maybe they go back to get someone that's built like Ray Lewis in Noah Sewell. 22, we have the Bengals. I was surprised when I was making this list based off Vegas odds. I was surprised since he's at 22. But they are. I'm going to have them go on the interior offensive line and get Jarrett Patterson, the center from Notre Dame. I assume with you picking at 22, something bad probably happened to Burrow. Maybe they didn't do enough on the offensive line, even though they've done some. So let's just keep solidifying that. Patterson can come to center, and then you got Karras or whatever can go back to guard. 23, we have the Houston Texans on the clock again. And tough to see their positions. I'm going Justin Flo. I'm pretty sure he's a 5-star recruit out of Oregon. I think more in line with the modern day linebacker, super athletic. I think between him and Sewell, those are outstanding linebacker prospects for the Oregon Ducks. And I think Flo is going to be one of those guys where it's like, oh yeah, we know about him. Man, to put up some big production. I think he will test very, very well when it's that time and solidify himself as a potential first rounder. Texans improving their linebacking core there. 24, we have the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm going to have them grab the first tackle at the board. That's Paris Johnson Jr. I think he's going to be the top tackle. I think him and Skoronski might have to kick into guard. I'm not sure about the length yet. I know he's 6'4", but if he has short arms, might project the guard, which is tough. DeJuan Jones is there. Jalen Duncan got some hype. Jackson Kirkland had some buzz, but he went back to school. I think he had a surgery or something. I think Zion Nelson could also be a first-rounder. But as I said, I do have Paris Johnson as my top tackle this year. And if you're Dallas, you're going to be looking for a tackle, either successor to Tyron Smith or looking for a true successor to La'el Collins at right tackle. 25, we have the Chargers. Going back to tackle, I'm having to get Skoronski from Northwestern. I think if he is going to be tackle, probably right tackle. Plug and play right there. Seems like an easy pick, honestly. They were unable to secure that top-tier tackle prospect this season, so why not take another opportunity in the 2023 draft? 26, Seattle, back on the clock already. They've drafted their quarterback, so now they're going to get a little bit of pass rush help and get Isaiah Foskey, versatile pass rusher out of Notre Dame. I think he can do a lot of things for that Seattle front. Still need pass rush help. I think I literally just saw they didn't pick up the option on LJ Collier. So they're just continuing to try to find their identity on the defensive side of the ball, how they're going to get after the quarterback. I think Foskey goes a long way. We'll be interested to see how he tests too. I'm pretty sure he made Bruce Feldman's freak list, so he could big combine in store, potentially, for Isaiah Foskey. 27, the Dolphins are back on the clock. And here's where we're going to have Bijan Robinson. I got a buddy that's a Texas fan. He's a Dolphins fan. He'd love this. He loved Ricky Williams. He'd love this one. I think Bijan Robinson is going to be the top running back in this year's draft class. Electrifying for Texas. And another piece, if Tua's still their guy, continue to make that offense unstoppable around him. 28, we have the Detroit Lions. And we're going to go another linebacker here. We're going to get Trenton Simpson from Clemson. A little bit more, again, I don't want to say not traditional, because in today's NFL, what's traditional linebacker? It's probably these guys that are 225, 230. But sideline to sideline cover linebacker from Clemson. I still think you're looking at the Detroit Lions defense right there. They've helped their pass rush. I still think their linebacking core is a little bit falling behind. They could go secondary. Could go Brandon Joseph here, but we'll have them go with the linebacker. 29, we have the Green Bay Packers on the clock, and I'm going to have them get Marvin Mims, your successor to Randall Cobb. Assuming Randall Cobb's their slot this year. They could go the Clemson kid that they got last year, but they still, again, they got to go wide receiver. Marvin Mims while undersized, very fast, very electrifying. Again, Oklahoma, is he going to stay there? Is he going to transfer? What's the quarterback play going to be like? No one really knows, but he is one of the most explosive wide receivers in college football. I mean, what else you got? I like Demas, who's a little bit slept on in these rankings. Johnson here, 6'4", maybe too similar to what they got in Christian Watson. A couple other slot, Parker Washington for the slot. Could go again. Things could definitely develop here at the wide receiver spot. But I'll go with the proven commodity right now, which is Marvin Mims. 30, we have the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm gonna have them get a pass rusher, Nolan Smith from Georgia. They got Karlaftis. Let's get someone on the other side. I think Nolan Smith is the best edge rusher left at pick 30. Another just monster from that Georgia defense, which is going to be, again, surprise, surprise, this year, like they were last year. They just keep on churning out 5 stars, keep on maintaining that incredibly high level of play. 31, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I'm going to get Byron Young from Alabama. 290 would be successor upgrade, William Golston on that front 3. And again, just another year, I think they're going to try to invest. So they did get Hall from Houston in the second round. That's good for one side. Now it's time to address the other side, get the other playmaker. Byron Young, Vita Vea, Logan Hall. That's a pretty good rotation there for the front 3 of the Tampa Bay Bucks. And we finish with the favorite right now for the Super Bowl, the Buffalo Bills. A little bit of a value pick, a little bit of a future pick. They're going to get Brandon Joseph, probably the best ball hawk safety right now in college football. And I think just it's time to get younger there. Between Jordan Poyer, between Mike Hyde, still playing at a high level, get their successor in play. You just won the Super Bowl. This is kind of a luxury pick for you. Give best player available. And Joseph, plus you can just play 3 safeties you want. You're rocking nickel. He can get out there and make a lot of plays, a lot of proven production, much like Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. Guys, 2 safeties that are good at being a safety, but also good at forcing turnovers. Brandon Joseph is in that mold. So there you go, guys. That is my way too early 2023 NFL mock draft. I already know some of these picks are probably going to age terribly, but how do you feel about where I had your team going? Let me know in the comment section below. That'll do it for me today, guys. It's your first time stopping by. Don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. Smash the like button if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you back here on the next one. I think we'll get back up into some pink slips tomorrow. So I'll see you guys then. Thanks for watching, and peace out.